Hey listeners, I want to tell you about a new company that just launched Choir. Choir is the financial industry's first conference diversity certification and a diversity tech platform that is helping to lift the voices of women and people of color on conference stages. With the groundbreaking Choir certification, Choir helps conferences measure, benchmark, and improve their speaker diversity efforts year over year. And that's not all. If you are a woman or a person of color, financial professional, and you want to explore speaking opportunities this year, head on over to hellochoir.com to sign up for Choir Voices.
Hi, this is Tina Powell, host of In the Suite, where I sit down with top women leaders and some of the biggest names in the financial services and the wealth management industry. Together, we'll discover some of their best secrets and top strategies to grow great business, build a strong brand, and lead teams in the 21st century. I hope you'll enjoy hearing their amazing personal stories of triumph, trepidation, and transformation in hopes of becoming better leaders ourselves. The time for you to lead is now, and you're in the suite.
When it came time to kick off season 3 of In the Suite podcast, I knew it was time to act bold and take risks, like so many of our guests from seasons 1 and 2. So I abruptly canceled my December trip to Cabo and moved my beach chair and blanket literally to Podcast Row at the MarketCounsel Summit in the Fountainbleau in Miami Beach. And let me tell you, it was well worth it. The MarketCounsel Summit is the brainchild of Brian Hamburger, President and Chief Executive Officer of MarketCounsel and Hamburger Law Firm. And I want to dedicate this special, extraordinary, first of its kind episode to him and the amazing team at MarketCounsel, to Brian's daughter, Ella, and his general manager, Ryan Marcus, who were instrumental to my visit and mission to support female leadership in the suite. You're about to hear on-the-spot, in-person, spontaneous interviews with industry leaders who continue to break the mold and shape the future of the wealth management industry. Aaron Klein, co-founder and CEO of Riskalyze. Cheryl Penny, Chief Executive Officer, Dynasty Financial Partners. Joel Bruckenstein, financial services fintech expert, leading industry consultant, and producer of the annual T3 Technology Tools for Today. Shannon Spotswood, president of RFG Advisory. Craig Iskowitz, founder and CEO, Ezra Group. Alan Darby, CEO, Alaris Acquisitions. Rob Baldwin, president and CEO, Tree PMR. George Tamer, head of sales, Advisor Engine. Marwa Zakaria, CEO, Asset Book. Rob Sandrew, Chief Growth Officer, Integrated Partners. And Ryan Shanks, co-founder and CEO, FA Match. No questions were prepared in advance, no meeting invites or fancy equipment, just me and a mic going rogue. So ladies and gentlemen, I want you to sit back and relax as I take you into the 13th MarketCounsel Summit to hear from some of the industry's most prominent leaders, the ones making big headlines and bold moves and redefining how the future of business gets done in the suite. Let's visit with Aaron Klein, co-founder and CEO of Riskalyze. Riskalyze invented the risk number, which powers the world's first risk alignment platform and is built on top of a Nobel Prize-winning academic framework. So, Aaron Klein, what an honor to be with you here.
Thank you.
My first MarketCounsel Summit, even though, we've known each other.
This is your first MarketCounsel Summit?
I know, yes, exactly.
How can somebody as connected as you, this be your first? That's wild. That is a huge miss on Brian Hamburger's part. How did he not have Tina Powell here before? Are you really a conference if you haven't had Tina Powell?
No, gosh.
I mean, come on.
You're being so generous. I'll tell you what, and you understand this more than anybody because you and Casey have 3 beautiful kids.
We do.
You're a family man. And so traditionally, this time of year, there's a family reunion.
Oh.
Right before the pandemic, we were in Palermo, Sicily.
Okay.
My mother's the oldest of 9 children. So
Wow.
as soon as I leave from Market Counsel,
Yes.
I'm going to Vegas for that family reunion.
That's awesome. But this year it's Vegas,
This year it's Vegas.
not Palermo.
Not Palermo, because
Okay.
the family
Slight
decided-
downgrade.
Exactly. And I
Slight
said,
downgrade.
Can we please not do the international thing, like getting together with family during the
Yes.
holidays?
Yes.
While we love each other
Yes.
is a little bit of a difficult maneuver.
Yes. In the ending days of a pandemic, especially.
Especially.
Good
So,
move. Good
In
move.
fairness, Brian has extended the invitation, and I skipped
Okay.
Cabo to come here, actually.
You know, now that is dedication.
Okay.
I'm not sure I would have skipped Cabo as much as I love Brian. I'm not sure I would have skipped Cabo to come here. So that's dedication.
And here's what I see here, right? Which is Brian kind of called me out, and he's like, "What is this that you have this female-only podcast?" And I said, really, we don't. What we're trying to do, though, is give women voices,
Right.
a voice,
Right.
because I love Craig and I love Michael, and they have had plenty of women on the podcast.
Sure.
But still, the percentage of women voices to
Yeah.
men. So I'm here to lift both women.
You're here to change to kind of bend the curve, you might say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's such an amazing industry. I want more and more
Yeah.
women to come here, and I want more and more women to either work for a fintech firm
Yep.
like a Riskalyze,
Yep.
to really think about what's going on in their financial lives. So a rising tide lifts all boats.
Yeah, it's absolutely right. And we have been incredibly lucky and fortunate to, particularly in the field of engineering, hire a lot of female leaders into our firm. And there's a very simple secret to that. You just have to look for talent in places that you don't expect it, right?
Yes.
Because that is like, I'm very convinced that like only like there's not a large percentage of people in our industry, in any industry across our country, there's not a large percentage of people who are actually sexist. I really actually believe that. What I believe though is that we tend to just see talent that looks like the talent that has come before. So the past begins to inform what the future is simply because that's what we see. And there's a little saying we have in our industry, you may have heard of it: past performance is no predictor of future success, right?
Exactly.
And so you have to look for talent. So one of the things that we've done, we've tried to adopt what they call the Rooney Rule. I don't know if you've heard about that.
I haven't heard the Rooney
The Rooney Rule came about, I want to say it was in sports somewhere. I think it was baseball, might have been football, I don't remember exactly. But the Rooney Rule basically said, look, when you're filling a vacancy, we're not saying like nobody wants to be a diversity hire. People want to be hired on their own merits, okay? We've hired a lot of women leaders. I have two amazingly talented female executives who have been chair of our company in a row. And they're both named Lori. I don't know how I struck gold with two Loris in a row, right?
Wow, that is striking.
Right?
gold.
So I struck gold with Lori Hardwick, who is
Yes.
amazing and an
Amazing woman.
incredible female leader in our industry. And now Lori Schultz, who is an incredible CEO and leader in the software profession. And she's bringing a bunch of really interesting experience to our industry. And so I feel like I've struck gold 2 times in a row. But how you do that is the Rooney Rule is all about saying, if you're going to fill a vacancy, you make sure that in your recruiting pool, okay, you always include at least one person from underrepresented group. You're not promising to hire them.
Right.
You're not saying I'm giving the job to somebody because they're from an underrepresented group. You're just including them in the pool, and you're saying, I have not done recruiting well enough if I don't have a single person who's underrepresented for that role, whether that's a female leader, whether that's a person of color, whatever it is. I haven't done my recruiting job well if I haven't been able to recruit at least one person to be a candidate for this role. And guess what? You end up hiring a much more diverse workforce because of that simple rule, because you start to see talent that you didn't see before, because it doesn't look like the talent that came before it.
You know, that's such an awesome concept for advisors. You know, a big theme here are these, how am I going to take my firm to the next level?
Yeah.
In terms of technology, but it's the people behind the technology.
100%.
It's the culture behind the technology. It's the leadership behind. So I like where we're going with this whole Rooney Rule. You can be an organization of 5,
or you could be an organization of 500 or
Yes.
5,000. Where are you right now with risk?
About 200.
Because you've been going. Okay.
About 200, yeah.
200. And Lori, your new chair here, comes from a SaaS background, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So it was actually a GRC, governance, risk, and compliance software firm.
Wow.
They worked with auditors and audit functions, and then grew out to like work with almost every function of a major corporation around governance, risk, and compliance in different ways. And she is the first female CEO of a unicorn, a billion-dollar technology company in Canada, and just was part of an exit that sold that company to a larger competitor for $1 billion. So kudos to her, and I feel so lucky already that I get to work with her.
What I've known here is this, right? And I've been watching you for the last few years.
Sure.
Is that you've expanded the product line now to the basis, the fundamental of Riskalyze, the whole risk score.
Yep.
And now I see you branching out to
Yep.
model marketplace,
Yep.
other. So kind of talk about that. What's the big thing right now?
Yeah, there's so much that I feel like different players in the industry have been on this mission to kind of build like the all-inclusive platform that can do everything for a financial advisor. And that technically is not our vision. Like, it really isn't. And I don't want to throw shade at any other firm, because this is more a comment about us. Like, we feel like if we did that, we would be mediocre at everything and not particularly good at any one thing. So we're very focused on how we can very logically and very thoughtfully kind of broaden our impact on the advisors that we're so privileged to serve. And so, you're right. It started with risk, and it started with client engagement. It started with helping advisors like more effectively build proposals that were framed with risk and help their clients understand what they were investing in.
And visualize. One of the things you did very
that's
good
right.
is you got that visual cue.
That's right.
That made communication between an advisor and a client seamless.
That's right. And then what's fascinating is it began to transform how the communication inside the firm also worked, because people would say, hey, the Joneses account is supposed to be a 52 and it's kind of like trended up to a 68. Like, we're going to need to rebalance that. Right. And so what we quickly figured out is people wanted to actually manage their accounts using that language. That's one of the things that led us to build out Riskalyze trading, for example, to manage how advisors trade and rebalance accounts. A big place that we built out into was portfolio analytics. People were like, look, like, I want to use the Riskalyze tools as they exist today are great for engaging with clients. I want to use this to really like build portfolios myself. So I want to do like deep statistical portfolio analysis. So we built that capability out. Most recently, we also built out this capability called Discovery.
Yes.
And Discovery is so freaking cool. So it really kind of builds us into the space of investment research. And the idea here is there's a lot of times financial advisors are trying to find like a particular ETF or mutual fund or something like that to solve a particular problem in a client's portfolio. Maybe, for example, they're trying to get them to sell an old holding in a consumer retail business, and they're trying to find a good fund to recommend for that particular slice of the client's allocation. So Discovery is what you use when you don't know what you're looking for, right? And it's basically a search engine. But one of the things is we're thinking about that problem. We stepped back and we said, if you look at what all the other tools in the space do, they're kind of hierarchical, like almost Yahoo style. Do you remember when Yahoo in the early days of the internet, you'd go through and you'd like drill down through these categories, right? And try to find the website you were looking for, right? And then Google came along and we just type what we want and hit enter, and typically it comes up, right? And so we said to ourselves, like, that needs to be reinvented. So Discovery is super cool. It uses natural language processing technology, and it is a search engine for every stock, ETF, and mutual fund on the planet. We will be opening it up to more types of investment products and strategies and solutions in the future. Today, stocks, ETFs, mutual funds. But you can go on there and type like ETF, consumer, risk 40 to 75, GPA 3.5, and boom, 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 and it's brought the whole universe down to 10 funds, right? And then you can kind of look at it, you can drill down into those funds and analyze them with our research tools and our analytical tools, or you can just compare them right there on the screen across a bunch of different metrics. So it's super cool. We're really excited about it. The response to it has been incredible, off the charts, and so we're incredibly excited.
I it made me think of Amazon. So I also too, I listen to music, right?
Yeah.
You listen to these recommendation engines of if you're there, and we are used to right now this natural language processing.
Yes.
How we're querying everything.
Right.
Like everything is
I don't want to figure out how to click into your 50 button UI.
Even when I'm in Canva, I use natural language processing.
Interesting.
Right?
We're not going to do 50 clicks anymore.
Right, exactly.
We want to be taken to it quickly.
That's really cool. Well, I think also too, like containing the client experience, the hard thing for advisors and even for marketers is when you have to leave the ecosystem to go, okay, somebody was looking at my screen, I have another screen there. And I said, well, because marketing, we have 5 programs open at the same time.
Right.
We might have an email, we might have scheduling software and all of that. So I like how you've engineered Riskalyze, and I think that,
Thank you.
It's exciting. One other question for you.
Yeah.
Because I think that advisors typically are risk adverse, right? Let's just
that can be true.
Okay, right.
That can be true. Absolutely.
Okay. The willingness to take a chance.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for those advisors that are still kind of scratching their heads and need a little bit of a push off the ledge to say, hey, going into 2022, you don't have time to act? How have you been able to be so bold?
Well, and you're saying in like trying new technology, like Riskalyze in their business?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Try a new technology where it's risk, where it's a Riskalyze. Try a new marketing technology.
Right. It's hard because advisors are so focused on on what is most precious to them, their client relationships. And there are times that I kind of like look back and wonder that we even became a business, that we got off the ground. Because if you think about it, like Riskalyze, to be successful with it, you just have to change how you do 2 things, just 2 things. How you meet with clients and how you meet with prospects. Okay, 2 of the most important, precious things to a financial advisor. I would say to any financial advisor, the most important thing they do is they meet with their clients. Like their clients are incredibly precious to them. They care about them. They don't want anything bad to happen to them. And they don't want them they don't want to do anything that causes their client to lose confidence in them. They'll lose that client. That's their business, right? Like that's their livelihood. That's how they take care of their family. So they care very deeply about their clients. The second most important thing to a financial advisor is the prospects that they get. They don't get them every other day. They don't grow on trees.
For sure.
Okay. So they want to make sure that that's a productive meeting. So Riskalyze takes a little bit of a leap of faith for those advisors. I can't tell you how many advisors have bought Riskalyze and then they never use it in a meeting. Okay.
Wow.
And that's a challenge. Like that's a challenge. We have built an entire onboarding team just to help them prepare for those meetings and get ready, because we know that if we can get them to do it one time, they'll be successful about 91% of the time. If we can get them to do it 2 times, it's 98%. So what does that boil down to in terms of advice? Definitely, if you're gonna take a leap on technology, make sure that you're partnering with a technology company who will invest in you. We make our customers sign annual contracts. Okay, why? Because that is what has given us the financial ability to go invest way more than that customer is going to pay us in year 1, just to make them successful. Okay, because we know that if we do a great job making the advisor successful, we'll be working together for years and years and years, and it'll ultimately accrue to our benefit. Go work with technology companies that are willing to invest in your success, because that really can be the difference between trying and it not working out versus trying and it actually being successful for you as an advisor.
That's a wonderful piece of advice. I can't wait to make sure that we get this out. I'll ask you one last question, because again, this is my first MarketCounsel Summit. So as a newbie here, I feel though I've been here for a couple of days now, so I'm kind of, I'm looking.
You're practically a veteran. You're practically a veteran now.
What's your piece of advice for me, like being here for the first time? What's the main takeaway?
Well, I love how Brian says, do whatever you can. We know we have busy lives and phones are ringing and stuff like that, but do what you can to be present at this conference. And I think that it's great advice, because they're just, I believe Brian told me backstage that I apparently coined the phrase that this conference is the Davos of wealth management.
Wow.
I forgot that I said that I coined it. I remember it being said for sure. So it's very gracious of him to give me credit. But like, I really do believe it's just an amazing set of people who are here. And so I've done whatever I can when I'm here to minimize allowing calls to get scheduled, because we all have those busy lives.
Of course.
And just going like, I want to be there and I want to connect with those people.
Well, Aaron Klein, always a pleasure. Congratulations on all your success.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Thanks for having me on.
Let's sit down with Cheryl Penny, who announced some very big news today. President and Chief Executive Officer of Dynasty Financial Partners. Dynasty Financial Partners is known for assisting advisors of integrity to better serve their clients, run their businesses more profitably, grow faster, and enhance the enterprise values of their firms. Dynasty does this by providing wealth management and technology platforms for select independent financial advisory firms.
So Cheryl Penny, what an honor to see you here today. You have been lighting up the feed. We have this major announcement here at MarketCounsel. I wondered if I could just grab you for a few minutes and just to talk about it because it's huge, huge news.
I'm excited to spend some time talking to you about it, Tina, and great to see you at the MarketCounsel event. I think it's my 10th. So I'm a little bit ahead of you. So anything you need to know, insider's perspective, let me know.
Okay, great. Okay. So, well, let's talk about the big news of the day. So both you and Brian and MarketCounsel here, I know that this industry event is legendary for announcing unbelievable news, really game changer stuff. So today, Dynasty Financial Partners announced with MarketCounsel a strategic partnership with Smart RIA. And I want you to talk about really what this means to the entire industry. You have 300 advisors right now?
Yep, about 310 advisors, 47 firms, RIAs, and it's crazy to say this out loud, 70 billion in assets.
Oh.
Yeah.
Congratulations
Thank
on that.
you.
That's really huge.
It's been easy, so thank you.
Yeah, I know. So totally.
Yeah.
So what does this mean exactly?
So let me share a quick little inside baseball funny story. So you go back about 6 months or so, we had been doing a lot of due diligence on the space. We wanted to find a tech-enabled partner to help us deliver scaled service infrastructure on our compliance. And we're providing all the service and outsource compliance function for those 310 plus advisors, but we're growing so fast, we need to tech-enable all aspect of our business. And we looked out at the marketplace and didn't see anything, and we were just about to say, you know what, maybe we need to build it ourselves.
Yeah.
And then the team uncovers Smart RIA. And we were instantly impressed. Great team. The product was still early on enough where we thought we could have a little bit of influence in terms of how we build it out, but it was the best thing that we saw in the space. So, of course, I called my good friend Brian Hamburger because he's a great sounding board, in particular on the compliance arena.
Of course.
And Brian said, well, you're not going to believe this. I'm looking at him right now, too.
That's
and
great.
So I forget who teed it up, doesn't matter, but we said, you know what, why don't we partner, make a strategic investment. I said, Brian, jokingly, you have more time than I have, although you're definitely more qualified than me. You please sit on the board representing our collective interest. And we ended up coming to terms, which we're very excited about. We really love the Smart RA team to make a minority non-control investment where we do have a board seat though, and said if we move quick, we'll be able to roll it out because I didn't want to announce it before our clients got onto the software, right? Because then all the inquiry comes in and I want to make sure our clients were getting the service that they needed. So we onboarded all of our clients, which went great. And then it lined up on the calendar for then to wait on the press for a couple weeks to announce it here at the MarketCounsel Summit 21. And the feedback has just been awesome.
Congratulations on that. I think what makes your announcement from my perspective is that how incredible that not only you invested in the technology, but that you also too took a minority interest. So I wonder if like other firms are going to maybe follow your lead. And I know Joel's doing a panel tomorrow about building it or borrowing it, right?
Yeah.
Building it or buying it. So what made you go in that? I think that's really cutting edge for the industry.
Yeah.
And everybody right now is having, how do we engineer the tech stack? How do we deliver compliance at scale, marketing at scale,
everything, yes,
client experience at scale?
Yeah, so which is, you're describing our business planning strategy sessions that we're having at Dynasty right now as we head into 22. It's really what you just said. It's what do we build? What is it that perhaps we buy? What is it that we partner with or invest in? And Smart RA is an example of that. Our joint venture with InvestNet, with Advisor Services Exchange, is an example of that. And we're trying to lay out the roadmap. But Dynasty is a wealth tech business that provides value-add business services. We obviously have a TAMP, and we accommodate our clients with capital, right, if they need capital for debt or equity. So we're constantly evaluating capability. And when you have 70 billion, right, there's a lot of people who show up and they want to do business with you. And for us, we look at it and say, okay, where can we find great partners where we can invest in a business, where we think we can make a difference? Because at the end of the day, we are entrepreneurs servicing other entrepreneurs, which I think is a competitive advantage, right? I often say we get to live our American dream by helping empower others to live theirs, which is a wonderful thing. But a lot of these other entrepreneurs, I started this business out of my garage, right?
Incredible.
A dozen years ago. I have seen the movie. I've been there and stayed overnight. And if there are maybe some things that we've experienced that can help other entrepreneurs, then we want to share that. I really think about this whole RIA ecosystem as an entrepreneurial ecosystem.
Yeah.
And there's so much opportunity. It's rising tides, raising a lot of boats. So for us, we see a business, we like the principles, and we say, let's invest. Let's help you evolve your product in a way that gives differentiated experience and service to our clients. But in addition to that, helps you become a thriving, growing, successful entrepreneur, and we'll benefit from that as well because we'll own a little bit of equity in the business.
I love that. I think that entrepreneurial mindset is really key. You understand it more than anybody. And I understand you are also too an equestrian in the horse business. I take a horse riding lesson. I started in January after not doing it for 30 years. I took 3 lessons last week, actually. My last was Jack on a Swedish warm blood. So do you think that has given you you and Dynasty a competitive advantage because you came from a different industry, right? You built it from the ground up, engineered, a very Steve Wozniak type of experience. And then in addition to that, you moved your headquarters, your home office. So you've been all about this fluidity, right? That I think that all the leaders here at MarketCounsel have this DNA. But I've seen you exercise it from the sidelines, from my vantage point over the years.
I think the biggest competitive advantage, look, I tell my kids, we have 2 beautiful daughters, 13 and 15, all the time, that adversity builds character. And, I grew up homeless, orphaned in the sticks of Maine, and who knew that would be great training to become an entrepreneur, right? Because you learn to do more with less. You learn about fiscal discipline, which is great early on in the life of a business when you have a little bit of capital and you got to do a lot with it. So I think that was helpful. With the horses, thanks for mentioning it, you get into own horses, whether they're jumpers or race horses like we have, typically because you hate your money. Right? The joke in horse racing is you want to make a little bit of money,
Exactly.
You start with a lot, right? So, but we've been so fortunate. We've had horses that have won some of the Triple Crown races, and we've bred some great horses. But for me, the horses is really about camaraderie and family, because I get 100 friends and family together for every race. And whether we win or lose, I won before the gate even opened, right? Because we're all together enjoying that time together. So for someone who's been really busy over the course of their career, having that once a month where we might have a horse racing at Saratoga or wherever it might be, and everyone shows up and it's a chance to see everyone, it's really been a blessing from that standpoint.
Well, Cheryl Penny, keep winning. Congratulations to you and Brian. Thank you so much for making the time today.
Thank you.
I greatly appreciate it.
Well, as we like to say, winners surround themselves with other winners, and that's why we're sitting here together right now. Thanks for having me.
Let's hear from Craig Iskowitz. He's a leading industry consultant, podcaster, thought leader, founder and CEO of Ezra Group. Ezra Group provides technology and strategy solutions to the wealth management industry. Joel Bruckenstein joins the conversation with Craig Iskowitz and Shannon Spotswood. Joel Bruckenstein, CFP, is an internationally recognized expert on applied technology for financial professionals and publisher of Technology Tools for Today, T3. Shannon Spotswood is president of RFG Advisory. RFG Advisory is an innovator in the wealth management industry, passionately committed to serving independent financial advisors and their clients. RFG prides itself on being a service company first, a technology company second, and a hybrid RIA third.
What number of MarketCounsel is this for you?
4, I think. Yeah.
Consecutive?
No. Well, I think I missed one
Okay.
or so. Yeah, but yeah, it's on my calendar all the time.
Why so? Why is it on your calendar?
I like the way Brian approaches it. It's different because the other events you can classify in 2 big categories. One, they're vendor events. So it's that vendor's pitch and that vendor's issues, and which is not bad. That's what they do, which is great. Or they're media events. So the media is running it. No offense against friends of the media, but they have also their way of doing things, right? So Brian looks at it a little bit differently. He looks at it more of an educational event. Like he even calls the panelists faculty, right? Which I thought is a nice touch. And he's more interested in getting the right people here rather than making money. Like, well, they gave us X dollars, so they're going to get this, and they gave us X dollars, they're getting that, and more like, well, how can we present the best information? How can we give people the most, what you want to learn about the industry here and why you want to come here?
Is this your first person-to-person conference since the pandemic?
It is not.
Okay, so what number is this for you then?
2. So I went to Riskalyze in Palm Springs.
Okay, so one of the things is that, have you noticed a way in which we converse and relate to one another from a communications perspective? Have you noticed that our conversations have changed? I myself, I'd love your feedback on this. I've noticed that we've hey, are you okay? Maybe questions that we wouldn't necessarily ask someone. Normally it's like networking and you're buzzing here and you're buzzing there. Or as me, a person attending a Riskalyze, is that just how a MarketCounsel event is done? It's more like a slower, hey, conversation. It's more meaningful dialogue.
Well, some people are that way. It's not everyone's the same. So I think some people clearly, this is their first event back. They're kind of getting back into the swing of things. And everyone's different. Some people jump right back in. Like I jump right back in like nothing ever happened. And it's fine. I was talking to someone else last night. They're like, oh, I'm feeling really weird. I don't know how to talk to people. It's just everyone's different. Some people are more outgoing and they're easier to adapt. Some people, they need a little bit of time to adjust.
Another thing that I want to ask you, because you're such a technician, I called you out on Twitter, your interview with Flex Socklin, and you're known for long-form technical content. So as you approach a MarketCounsel Summit, who's got your time and attention? What are you looking forward to? Whether a session or a panel or speaker, what do you, Craig Iskowitz, trying to get out of here?
Well, for me, MarketCounsel is less, it's not a tech-focused conference,
right.
Which is okay. Not every conference needs to be tech-focused. Riskalyze is very tech-focused because it's about their technology. Or if I go to the InvestNet conference, it's very focused on their technology, right? So, or T3 is very focused on technology. It's in the name of the conference, whereas this conference is not. So it's more about networking, right? So who's here? Who can I talk to? Like there are my clients here, there are prospective clients here, there's friends here, people who could be clients here, people who I could help, right? So I'm always looking I'm a big believer in karma, right? So what goes around comes around. So if I can help someone out, that's great. And then you can meet them here as well. So for me, the MarketCounsel is part education, part networking.
So I want to get to some of your tweets, Mr. Iskowitz.
Are you going to hold me to account? So when are we going to get an award for having the most tweets at the T3 conference? I'm always at the top and I get nothing. Nothing at all.
You know what?
I want something. I want like a trophy or something.
It's just a pain.
I want to come up on stage and get accolades.
I'll talk to Tina about that.
Yeah. You all heard it first.
You heard it here first.
That we've got Joel Bruckensteen. And Joel, remind us of the dates of the T3. I don't have my calendar.
T3 is May 2nd through 5th in Denton, Texas, which is a suburb of Dallas. We've been there before. We love Denton.
Loved it there.
Had a great time last time. You know what we should get for him? Something nice, like maybe a bobblehead.
There's only one.
But it's
Actually, there's 2 Joel Bruckensteen.
It'll be a Joel it's going to be a Joel Bruckenstein bobblehead, not a me bobblehead. It'll be a you bobblehead. No, I want a you bobblehead. I don't need me bobblehead. What am I
There's
doing?
only 2 in existence. I don't know. They're very rare.
Well,
They are extremely rare.
For being the #1 tweeter, I should get something. You know,
You should
really
get
good.
something.
Yes. Well, you can still think about it. I don't want to put you on the spot. You can think about it.
Okay,
Right.
so we know. So yeah,
Yeah,
Joel,
can't wait.
any sessions or anything that you're really looking forward to right now?
No, we're doing a really interesting session on build versus buy
Right.
with regard to technology. So it's a question I've been getting a lot lately from large RIA firms. So I thought we'd do a session on it. I think it'll be really interesting. We've got great panelists.
Yeah, who's on the panel?
We've got Darren Tedesco, we've got John O'Connell, and Rob Baldwin from Trade PMR.
Fantastic.
So really looking forward to that. And I found the one this morning on fees really interesting. I thought it was a really good discussion.
I'm going to disagree with you.
Really?
It was an awesome discussion. I can tell you why, based on the number of tweets I put out. Because I
Okay,
only
we're
tweet
here right now.
if there's something useful.
Right.
If it's a boring
And I
session,
retweeted a number of
if it's boring, you'll just see me post just the people. Like, okay, this panel went out, and nothing. Like, I couldn't stop tweeting on that because it was everything the guy said was like, that's cool, that's interesting. Oh, I like that. Right.
But, you know,
So
somebody from the audience, I think it was Shannon, was asked a really good question about financial planning. And
she asked a question about fees. What's the average fee for financial planning?
But they really,
They punted on the question.
yeah, they punted on that one. And I almost wanted to raise my hand and follow up, but I had to go to a business lunch.
I didn't have time for that type of nonsense.
What was the main takeaway there?
There were a couple. One of the takeaways was something I think we kind of all know, that more RIAs are moving to hybrid fees, a combination of AUM and subscriptions or flat, and that you need to have a menu of services for flat fees. You can't say, well, give us a flat fee for everything.
Right.
That defeats the purpose. That's what the AUM fee was, a fee for everything. So if he was talking about other firms that have menus of dozens of things they offer with different fees, which they say clients like. So.
Yeah, and then it might be okay to charge an AUM fee for investment management, but for some other things it makes no sense. Like, why should you pay an AUM fee for something like a check writing service, right? Makes no sense.
Bill pay.
Yeah, bill pay. I mean, those kind of things, it just makes no sense. So I thought that was really interesting. The other really interesting thing I thought they were talking about was when subscriptions do and don't make sense. Like they're saying for the high net worth and the ultra high net worth, they see no traction at all on subscriptions. And again,
Why would they
I've been saying
care?
that for a while. It doesn't really make sense to me. You know, for the mass affluent, it makes a lot of sense. But once you move out of the lower end, actually, of the mass affluent, it probably doesn't make sense.
And I would imagine that it would be harder to train an audience that's already used to a traditional AUM fee and traditional methods of billing to now all of a sudden pivot and go to something else.
Well, they were just saying pivoting in general is
Yeah.
challenging, but a lot of advisors are probably, A, more scared of it than they should be, and B, it's a problem of their own making because they don't have a fee strategy. So if you don't go into a relationship with a fee strategy, you know, you don't have a plan, you're going to be at a loss when it comes time to have that conversation, as opposed to having a standard plan that you apply uniformly to everybody. I thought that was really good advice.
It was, and we work with a lot of broker-dealers on billing systems, right? And they have the same problems.
Right.
It's that there's no one way to bill. You wind up having multiple layers. If you ever look at a billing software, there's hundreds of options, tiers, and by security type, and by this and by that. So you wind up getting this huge mass of legacy billing, or they were calling it legacy pricing. And RIAs are the same. When they start out, they might give favorable pricing to new clients, and then 5 years, 10 years later, they're still giving them that same pricing, even though they're well established.
More likely 20 years later. And they are legacy clients that they had a relationship with 20 years ago, and they're probably not even the best clients now, but they're getting very preferential pricing.
So joining the podcast, yes, joining the podcast
Just talking
is.
about you.
So this is a perfect.
But you have to come over here
perfect-
because the microphone's
See,
here.
exactly. So we were talking about that first session this morning about pricing, and I understand that you asked a very, very good question.
I
to the
loved your
audience.
question.
So, yes,
I didn't
you're
like
a
their
big
answer.
hit. People are talking about you, Shannon Spotswood, when you're not in the room. So tell us what the question was, and I'd love your thoughts.
I mean, so far today has just been absolutely phenomenal. So one part of the question question was thinking about working with the next gen of clients, G2, G3. How should advisors approach that pricing model? And then the second part of the question was around subscription models and some of these more innovative ways of approaching the diversification of income streams for advisors. So I think it's a really unexplored, and it's easy for us as an industry to gloss over it because the majority of advisors are still charging a percentage AUM, and we're still very focused on really managing client relationships for those individuals who already have assets to manage, as opposed to being really thoughtful about cultivating longevity in our businesses, thinking about how to serve very effectively the next gen and people that are in different phases of their life. They're in the wealth accumulation phase. They're in a different part of their life as opposed to, I'm already rich, can you help me?
But I really like the financial planning part of the question.
Oh, yes.
That's the part I don't think they addressed.
Yes,
And
okay.
I think it's a really complex kind of question because financial planning still seems to be pretty labor intensive, and not everybody explains the value of it. And so I don't think advisors get paid what they should get paid because I don't think they explain the value of the service they're providing, and they feel uncomfortable defending it.
Well, and I think that was the second part of the question. My head is spinning around marketing and behavioral finance now, but the second part is, what is the average advisor charging for financial planning?
Not enough.
And I'll tell you what's interesting, in our firm, we actually only have 2 advisor teams charging for financial planning. And it took a year and a half for them to really grind through how much time, what is the team, what is the specialty, why do we feel...
I bet they were surprised at how much time
it is. Why do we feel we are justified and we have a position we can defend in charging for it? And they've been phenomenally successful doing it. But that's 2 teams out of 77 advisors. Right. It's a very small percentage.
Well, the issue is a lot of people say they're doing financial planning when they're really not doing comprehensive planning. And so I think the general public is confused about what true financial planning is. And if you do it right, it does take time, and it's certainly worthwhile. Anyway, I have to run to a meeting, but
what are you doing?
It was great to drop in.
Thanks for dropping in on my podcast, Joel.
I loved it. Thank you. We're just figuring it out, right?
Tina, did you guys have fun? You did great.
Thank you.
Okay, so we get to see you later?
Yeah, of course. I'll be around. I'm speaking tomorrow.
Okay, good.
It was great. It was so fun.
Thank you. I'll keep it running, actually.
Why not? We have more to say.
Always.
Yeah.
I love Shannon because, stay back for the microphone, right? So when I call her all the time and ask her questions about, what do you think about this? What do you think about that?
That's really smart.
And she's very gracious with her time to answer my questions.
Anytime. I think we're also fortunate to be in an industry where we have so much innovation, so much disruption, so much to talk about. Some of the best slides that are coming out today are really the underlying reason why advisors exist, which is consistently over time, if you work with an advisor, whether you take the behavioral finance tact of people will basically revert to all of these biases that will ultimately destroy their investment performance long term, or you look at it just from a straight performance, from a straight alpha perspective, that working with an advisor long term sets you up to be more financially successful. So it is that like clarion call of the why advisors do this. And now we're just in this really interesting time of, I think, iterative excellence, in that the model itself is changing. How advisors approach their business is changing. How they're thinking about marketing and branding and why they do what they do is changing. And it's going to happen so fast. I mean, we're going to be sitting here 3 years from now, 5 years from now, and it's going to look radically different.
Do you also think that with new, crypto, NFTs, this whole movement right now, you think that that is going to get advisors to disrupt their business for fear of being left behind or not reaching that next generation of client that is coming in and saying, hey, you know what, I would like to, it's great that I inherited this money from my grandfather, and I would like to buy my first NFT, and I want to talk to my advisor about that. What do you guys have to say about that?
I'm a big crypto supporter. Yeah. I've been in the crypto space since 2018, and I'm on the board of a company that does crypto SMAs. It's actually a crypto SMA connector. So in the old days, remember APL, Fiserv APL, was check free APL was the connector between managers and sponsors. No one else could do it because it was hard. Now it's easy. Everybody can do managed accounts, but it's hard to do crypto. So the company's called bitria.io, and they connect digital asset managers who are experts in crypto investing with RIAs and broker dealers, and they do all the piping,
all the stuff,
all the
that
plumbing,
needs to happen.
the allocations, the trading, the rebalancing, all that stuff. They handle that, and that's where it's going, right? NFTs are nice, it's more like art at the moment, right? So you don't call your advisor if you want to buy a piece of art. It's an investment, right? It's only when you get to the ultra high net worth levels that their advisor is involved with. Okay, let me do the inventory of your art collection or your handbag collection or your car collection, right? But NFTs are right now not anywhere near where they will be in 5 years, but I think more on the crypto side, you're going to see more advisors doing it because they have to, they're being forced. And like anything, the older ones will just drop out. They won't do it. And I wouldn't go to an advisor who doesn't understand crypto. Right. Because it's a larger and larger portion of my overall portfolio. And I want them to understand that and understand how it fits in, understand the risk involved, and even be able to give advice around that, right? If you can't talk to your advisor about something you're invested in, then why are you talking to them?
And I think that's, you mentioned, Tina, during your panel about how steep the learning curve is for advisors. We are sitting at the intersection of that steep climb, because it's easy for an advisor to be dismissive and poo-poo an NFT, a crypto, anything that's really in a robo.
Did you hear my good friend David Armstrong say, well, crypto is nothing, it's going away. That's the old men talking, right? That's from the non-understanding point of view. You don't understand that this is a network. Like, I was talking to someone in the industry, they were like, well, why can't I just start my own Bitcoin? It's open source software. I'll just start my own. Well, yeah, but I can start my own Facebook if I wanted to. Right. No one's there. No one uses it. The power is the network. Yeah. The power of Bitcoin is the network. One of the powers, right? And you can start, there's lots of Bitcoins, there's lots of coins, but they're called altcoins or shitcoins. Right,
or Dogecoin,
because no one uses them really, right? And that's where you're missing out the value. That the network powers it, the network keeps it going, and the network makes it something. And so I'm sure David will come around eventually, but he's one of the laggards.
What's interesting on this? I have a 15-year-old son, and there is a tremendous at that next gen level, teenage level, there is a tremendous amount of familiarity and comfort in having a conversation around digital currencies. I remember standing in line with these kids, buying them tickets to Six Flags, and they were having a robust, 5 teenage boys were having a robust conversation about the underlying value of Bitcoin versus Dogecoin, and would you buy it, would you not, would you trade it? This is now going to be woven into the fabric of society, and if an advisor thinks that they can be dismissive of it, they're going to be.
So let me give you a real world example. My middle daughter, Emma, lived in London for 4 years. She went to college there, got her BA, stayed for the year working, and I had to send her money. So going through my bank, which is the worst bank in the world, I won't even talk at their name, they want $50 to transfer any funds to London. So I switched to TransferWise and OFX, which are websites. And they charge like $5, which is great. But it takes 5 days for the money to get there, right? It's still just slow as hell. So she owed me some money for something. I said, I want to pay you back for this, like the security deposit on her apartment. I said, here's the deal I'll make you. This is a year and a half ago. I said, buy Bitcoin with it, and you can keep the money. I was like, are you sure? Again, she did. Of course, now she's tripled her money. Yeah. But that wasn't the point to make money. The point was to get her to understand what it was. And here's the use case. She still has the UK account. She hasn't been able to close the account yet because it's a pain in the ass. She owed me some money, she just bought Bitcoin and transferred it. I had the money we were in the kitchen in 5 minutes.
Right.
Boom. Right. So there's your value. That's just one of that's a very common use case, payments, cross-border payments. Yeah. But no banking involved, no middlemen involved, except the app, right? We both use crypto.com, and you're done. And I've got the money in my account. 2 seconds.
So 5 minutes. We had an advisor that wanted to pay us in crypto.
I'm going to the next section.
Goodbye, Shannon Spotswood.
So I'll ask you one last question. So we had an advisor that wanted to pay us in crypto.
Yes.
How does a business get paid? What's the interface? What's the payment gateway of choice for like a business like ours to start accepting crypto?
Well, it's the same as what an individual would do. You just open the account in the business's name. Right. So whatever method you do, there's a number of different ways. You could open a Coinbase account for the business.
Right.
You could open a Crypto.com account for the business. You could open any number of options that are crypto-friendly apps for the business, as long as it's in the name and you've got the right KYC and you're all up and up. Then it's just another payment method.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And then you can hold it in Bitcoin. You look at Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy.
Yeah.
They have Bitcoin on their balance sheet, in their treasury.
That's why they've gone like ridiculous.
Right. Now, it depends how big a company you are. If you're big enough, then you might go to Gemini, a much larger, or a NYDIG, NYDIG, right? They're institutional level cryptocurrency. But for small companies, you can just open up an account anyway.
Okay.
There you go. You've covered a lot of that. You covered a lot of ground.
Thank you.
And we had special guests.
Yes, we got a lot of content.
This is the best podcast ever.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey listeners, Tina here, and I appreciate you so much for listening and joining us in the suite. I would be so grateful for a follow on Instagram at In the Suite Pod. By doing so, you are helping to fulfill our goal of financial literacy and empowerment by providing jobs and opportunities for the women and men who contribute to this production. We are working so hard on our IG, so make it easy to you to find and access tips and resources from the show. Again, check us out at In the Suite Pod on Instagram. Thank you so much. Let's talk with Alan Darby, CEO of Alaris Acquisitions, on the subject of mergers and acquisitions in the wealth management industry. Alaris Acquisitions sources, negotiates, and closes new partnership opportunities for dominant local, regional, and national wealth management firms that seek to grow via acquisition.
So Alan Darby, great to see you here at MarketCounsel Summit. I know that you and I are both here for the first time, right?
That's right. I've been wanting to attend this for years. Unfortunately, never had the opportunity to. So when I got the invitation, I was thrilled to come down. Of course, it never hurts to go to Miami in December.
Absolutely. It's been a phenomenal conference. I mean, one of the things that's really impressed me is that it feels almost like we're at this leadership retreat. You've got CEOs here, you've got heads of companies, you've got the who's who in the industry is here, has found a way to get to the Fountainbleau at Miami Beach.
Yeah, well, it's a really different mix than what I typically have seen at most advisor conferences, where it's dominated by the individual RAAs, and then there's custodians and things like that. Here we actually have different industries like the legal profession, a lot of direct capital providers are here, tech providers and so forth, but it's far different from a group that brings a lot of different perspectives to the industry.
And I know that Alaris Acquisitions, you specialize in M&A right now. It is every session, every day, there's been something that's been devoted to the subject of M&A here. Mm-hmm. So why don't you talk about it? Like, why is it so hot right now?
Well, people think it's about the multiples, which have been expanding. Mm-hmm. And so obviously that is a driver for firms to consider transacting. But I really think it's this false notion that it's easy to be a buyer. And I was just listening to a few speakers, and that was something that they were pointing out. And we bring it up to firms all the time because we get calls by buyers, and they're wanting us to represent them in our buyer advisor model. And we say no to them because they really haven't thought through why they want to be an acquirer. They have nothing tangibly unique that makes them stand out. So I would say that is something that I've felt for quite a long time, that yes, everyone's a buyer today, but the reality is there's only a few really good buyers. And they put up an interesting slide that shared essentially, and I'm going to get this math a little bit wrong, but it seemed to me probably like 80-90% of all the transactions that are done are done by a very small group of firms. Right. So while there's the I think the number that they said was like 220 acquisitions thus far have taken place. I think that number is going to go up quite a bit between now and the year end, but it's concentrated in like 10 firms that have done the vast majority.
Right.
And so it's a hot topic because valuations are high. Our demographics have just point to the reality that so many firms are going to be looking for succession planning and liquidity events of sorts. But the thought that you can just be a buyer is really got a lot of interest out there. People are just raising their hands saying, hey, we'll go buy too. And I really think they are in for a rude awakening on how difficult it is to compete.
And you said an interesting word there, right? Is that you use this term buyer advisor model.
Mm-hmm.
And look, I come out of a traditional wealth management background. We had been looking for M&A succession, which eventually we did. We sold to Mercer Advisors.
Right.
What is a buyer advisor model? Like when you're part of that succession dating, you're just calling it like, hey, we know we need to solve a problem. We need to solve. For us, it was solving succession.
Yeah.
And the owner needed to, and I had a small equity stake in the business, but the owner was also too looking to reap the benefits of creating great enterprise and looking for that liquidity event as well. But what is a buyer advisor model?
So if you think about what is the pathway to transacting, we call it a partnership opportunity. It's code for acquisition. If you're a seller, let's say, and you're looking for a potential buyer, a partner, historically you've had two pathways to go find one. The first is you can try to do it yourself, which is quite daunting if you've never done it. You talk to anyone who has gone through the dating process with potential buyers, they will tell you how much of a heavy lift is. If you don't understand the landscape, how deals work, it will overwhelm you and you'll kiss a lot of frogs. Hopefully you find your Prince Charming, but you can do it. The other route historically was to hire what's called a seller advisor. So investment bankers, business brokerage firms, things like that. And so that, in my opinion, is a better route because they're your expert that can help educate you on what the M&A landscape looks like, how deals are done, etc. The problem with the sell side, in my opinion, is it's all about the money. And you talk to anyone about M&A and they'll cite how it's all the cultural fit needs to be right. That's our most important thing about looking for a partner is the cultural fit. Well, the sell side does not focus on the cultural fit.
Right, they're focusing
they
on
speak
the
to it.
multiple.
Yeah, they speak to it, but the process of a sell side advisor is they'll collect your information, they'll build what's called a SIM deck, which is basically just a pitch deck on your firm, and then they broadcast it out to a bunch of potential buyers, and they start this competitive auction process. And so it's all about the money up front. The highest bidders kind of get narrowed down into a few, and then you might try to focus on the cultural aspect of it. And it's very expensive. So as a seller or hiring a sell-side advisor, you'll pay substantial retainers, progress fees, success fees that easily get into hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we're just coming about it from the opposite end, from the buyer's perspective. So the buyers, which today we represent roughly 20 national and regional firms that have wanted to grow their business by acquisition, they essentially engage with Alaris to go find partners for them. And so we have to study their individual models, meet their team, get intimately familiar with their culture and what they're looking for. And then we go out into the marketplace and try to source those partnerships. So we're sort of a matchmaker in that regard. And so our process is all about the culture. So we start, when we get a firm that says, yes, Alan, we'd like to explore what a partnership means, we'll bring them through a very robust process. Typically takes about 2 months, where we are educating them on the marketplace. We're showing them, hey, these are the economic models that exist, what they're each designed to produce. We know, how firms build their advisor value proposition. We want to understand how the seller is prioritizing, what's motivating them in this. What are they looking to solve for? Is it a monetary event? Is it a quality of life event? Is it growth? It could be all of those, but how do you weight those in your priority?
Right.
And then most importantly, we walk through the autonomy trade-off, because that's what you're doing when you transact. You want stuff, whatever that stuff is. Could be money, it could be access to new resources, growth opportunities, all that. Well, the trade-off is autonomy. And so we need to understand what you're willing to give up in terms of decision making. Everyone's different. It's a spectrum out there. We have clients that are highly entrepreneurial. We have clients that are much more pragmatic about what they want you to do. So you have to, and there's everywhere in between. So we do that, which takes about a month and a half, 2 months, before we ever talk about a client.
I love that. That's such a great approach.
And so it's unlike it's a long-winded answer to your question, what's a buyer advisor, but I wanted to distinguish it from the sell side, which, look, we're sell side advisors in a number of cases too, but we much prefer the buyer side approach because it emphasizes the cultural fit. And then the clients pay our fees. So unlike the sell side where the seller is paying us, the clients pay us for the result. But I do want to make an important point. We don't represent our clients in like an agency relationship. We can't bind them. We're not a fiduciary for them. They're essentially hiring us because they believe our process is going to produce a great fit for them. And so they don't mind paying our fee to find that because we compress their sales cycle to find a partner. Hopefully everyone we're bringing to them is an automatic match for what they're looking for. And then we do a lot of heavy lifting and leading through the process. So that's what a buyer advisor is.
Yeah, the process, I would say, like, that's the key word here. Understanding what's that replicable set of tasks
yes.
that get you. That I feel like even from our perspective here at C-Suite, even the podcast here, it takes years to get to that level of the process. So
well it's all about the process.
It is all about the process.
And that's what we're committed to. Sometimes our clients get a little frustrated with us because we forced this process, but we know it works. It's very transparent. It's designed to help vet the cultural fit in a very practical step-by-step way, because if you don't have a process of vetting that, then it just boils down to the subjective gut feel of, do we like one another? And that's not a good way to evaluate cultural fit.
Well, Alan Darby, what a pleasure to see you here at MarketCounsel.
Thank you.
See Alaris, and all good things. I know that you've had a really impressive track record of success. I'm looking forward to seeing more and more of you in the future, definitely at these industry events.
Yeah, this is going to be a big year. I think 2021 was a record-breaking year for us, as it was for so many firms, but we don't see it slowing down in 22, so looking forward to it.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Tina.
Here's my conversation with Rob Baldwin, President and CEO of Trade PMR, the privately held brokerage and custodian services provider based in Gainesville, Florida. They work to streamline fee-only investment advisors' operations through comprehensive custodial, operational, and trading support.
Rob Baldwin, wow, CEO and founder of Trade PMR. It's so great to see you here in the suite and to grab this time. Thank you so much for making yourself available. I know you just got off the stage just a little while ago, and you know that I've been a big Trade PMR fan for years and years. We've been running into each other at T3 for I don't know how many years now.
Good to be here. Thanks for asking me to sit down with you.
Yeah. So I know that you just also too got off stage.
Mm-hmm.
You, Joe Bruckenstein, there are a couple other people, but you're up to such great things at Trade PMR, constantly in the press. An announcement 3 weeks ago, May 26th, May 19th, March 23rd, you're always like in my feed. So I'd love to hear a little bit about what was going on in the panel and some of the latest things that you're doing really cool at Trade PMR.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we just finished completing a white paper on data and ownership of data, and trying to educate advisors that they need to own and control their own data and make sure that no matter who they do business with, whatever the vendor and the supplier is of their CRM or whatever component they use, is allowing them to own and control their data. And if they don't, then RIAs need to wise up and understand they might have to contract out with a third-party supplier for a data warehouse or something to that effect. Because as we continue to roll down the path of growing intelligence with our information, if we don't have our data and we don't own our data, we have nothing. We can't scrub our data. We can't run through our data and figure out what kind of client base we have, what our demographics are, how we're growing, how we're not growing, who our best clients are, who our worst clients are, all those demographics. Unless you have data, you can't answer that question. So that was one of the topics of our conversation, as well as should you build or should you integrate technology? So the panelists were fantastic, came from different backgrounds, and it really, I think, helped advisors answer the question of what does it actually take to delve into the world of programming and building software. And it's a task that I think is misunderstood and misappropriated in many ways, because a lot of people think probably what I thought 30 years ago, that you could develop software, put it in a box, get rid of your software developers and run that box for 4 to 5 years, and then maybe improve it a little bit as times change and so forth. And it was a one-time investment. But that is far from the truth. Because today we have PII, we have cybersecurity issues, you have database issues, you have to own and control this data, you have to police and monitor it, and then you have technology changes that are never ending. So to take a project on and to say, I'm going to build software, is $1 million a year project to begin with at the very base level. And I don't think many RAs understand that.
Yeah.
So they need to understand that if they're going to take this information, they're going to take this data, and they're going to present it to clients, they have a lot more issues than they ever thought. It's not that easy. Currently, everyone outsources technology to third-party vendors, and when they do that, they put the onus on those third-party vendors for cybersecurity and PII. But when they take that data and they present it to a client, they now are in charge of answering the questions to the regulators of that control of that data and how they monitor, control it, and govern it for cybersecurity. So those issues are really serious, and firms get shut down if they don't do it properly. So you can't have a regulator walk in your door one day and say, how are you solving a cybersecurity issue? And you're operating within a box, and all of a sudden they say, well, who's going to answer questions about cybersecurity? It's surely not going to be the owner of RIA, because he doesn't know anything about it.
Absolutely not.
So he better have those people on staff who understand it, operate it, and can answer the questions, and who governance that software according to the SEC rules. And if they don't, they're in real hot water. So it's a big undertaking today to build software. It's not something that's just an ABC, we're going to solve this problem. And so I'm a big believer in, if you're going to develop software, you need to stay in your wheelhouse. You need to stay in your lane of what you build and control. Because as a custodian, I'm going to provide complex trading, rebalancing, new account operations, and so forth. That's my domain. I understand it. That's what is important to a client who does business with us. They get that. An RIA needs to figure out how to make efficient workflows and to take different pieces of software and integrate them properly to where they can make sure that they operate a business efficiently. And that's their job. But it's not really to do an undertaking to develop a CRM or a portfolio management system.
Everybody wants to be the great Friedman, and nobody understands more the complexity and the evolution of how software has changed more than you. How old new is Trade PMR?
We're almost 24 years old.
Yeah, that blew me away. And so now I have to imagine too, one of the things that I talked about yesterday on the panel was the TD Ameritrade and the Schwab, that merger, and how we saw a lot of our clients now lose that service model and even lose some of the technology integration. Wow, where does all that go?
Well, let me take you back a little bit, because if you may not remember, but Trade PMR was birthed out of a bad M&A transition with a custodian 24 years ago. So that's why I decided to start Trade PMR, because I am a former RIA. I ran a book of business, and I custodied multiple custodians, and one of them got bought by another one, and they lost my data.
Oh, gosh.
They lost my clients' assets.
Oh, my God.
So you can imagine what that's like in your community, in your city. You're trusting a custodial transition to be seamless, and it wasn't.
That's
so
unbelievable.
What happens then? Well, I got the black eye, the custodian didn't. So I ended up eventually having to fax statements to the custodian, the new custodian, and saying, I need 100 shares of this, and I need 100.45 shares of this mutual fund in this account, and this, over and over and over again, to repopulate those accounts. But guess what? I lost all cost basis, all history, all information, and that was a really bad situation. So Trade PMR was birthed out of a bad merger. And here we are again. 9,000 RIAs are about to go through a transition.
Oh my God.
And it's not seamless.
Yeah.
I'm just going to tell this. I'm boldly stating it's not seamless because the custodians use different platforms for their banking, their ACHs, their check writing, all different types of systems that are different. Even the beneficiaries are going to have to change and be rewritten on an IRA account. So yes, you may not have to repaper the new account, but all the other documents have to be supported over time. And they will have to go back and support those documents with the new custodian over time. And it's not going to be talked about because it's not the question people are asking. They're asking about, do I have to repaper? Well, you can say no to that question, but it doesn't mean you're not going to have a hell of a lot of work to do to make sure your customers are not uninterrupted. Take that to the next level, Tina. Think about your technology suite that you've developed with your prior custodian, and now try to match it to the new custodian and making sure the data is uninterrupted from, let's say, December 20th to December 21st when that transition occurs. Yeah. It's a monumental task.
Yeah. There's no way that can happen. It's like me saying, okay, I'm going to go from this MacBook Pro here, and then I'm going to go to a Dell, and that expecting everything to be like even worse than that. It's just like, that is going to be something. I know that you're going to be at T3. I know Trade PMR at T3. I'm always there at T3. Yes. You always have great announcements and stuff. I'm sure that these discussions, the data, this whole integration, the migration of data and technology, I'm sure that you're going to have a lot to say at T3.
Absolutely. We're really looking forward to T3. It's one of the greatest conferences out there for technology. And it's the best place for advisors to go to figure out what they need to do, what they need to buy from a technology standpoint to integrate into their practice to run their best workflow. So yes, we're going to have a lot of solutions we present that are brand new. We're really excited about it. We have actually a brand new product that we'll come out with at T3. So it's going to be a big waving of the flag of where we're going and what we plan on doing in the future. So looking forward to being there.
That's great. And last time I saw you, I remember you and your wife, Monica, going through the hotel with the baby seat. How old is the baby now?
My youngest is 3.5 years old.
Wow.
And she's here somewhere swimming in a pool and enjoying life. So I saw her this morning and she gave me the cold shoulder because Daddy hadn't spent any time with her. So I look forward to spending some more time with her soon.
Well, thank you so much for spending time with us, Rob. It's always an awesome experience.
It's a pleasure, Tina.
To see you and to talk.
Again, congratulations on your podcast.
Thank you. And thank you for all the work that you're doing in the industry. Take care, Rob.
Let's spend some time with George Tamer, formerly of TD Ameritrade and now head of sales at Advisor Engine. Advisor Engine builds powerful and intuitive technology for financial advisors.
So great to see you, George Tamer. Wow.
Yeah, thank you.
Wow, it's been a while, huh?
Almost 2 years, yeah.
Oh my God. And here we are. It's Podcast Row, and it is booming.
It sure is.
Like I said, MarketCounsel Summit Podcast Row is lit. And I was so happy to see you here. One of the things I talked about on the panel was the fact that TD Ameritrade and the Schwab merger, that story was a big defining moment for a lot of advisors. So how are you doing afterwards?
Great. I mean, I think to your point, it was a defining moment for a lot of people. And when change happens like that, it creates opportunity. So I'm excited about where it's brought me, which is here at Advisor Engine, and the ability to help advisors stay in the same field, help advisors help their end clients, reach more people, and to now just be more tech focused when we do that versus on the custodial side where you were covering a little bit of everything. To be now focused on one thing is exciting for me.
Yeah, and I feel like you have such an incredible point of view because, I mean, you managed a lot of practices over at TD Ameritrade. I had the privilege of being on the advisor panel for 3 years and the presidential panel. I mean, I saw hundreds of firms, if not thousands of advisors that you've worked with over the years.
Yeah, that was the beauty about being in my role and what my team was doing is that you could see what clients were doing really well, maybe where there were some pitfalls, maybe what they should be doing. And with that sort of view of the landscape, you get called into a lot of different conversations. People want to talk to you about valuation, client segmentation, which technology do they want to use, how should they structure fees or model asset management. So you sort of touched it all. And to bring that perspective to a technology company like Advisor Engine and say, hey, this technology is fantastic, but here's how it actually works to improve the real problem that you're trying to address, which might be onboarding clients or a segmentation issue, or how do you reach more clients at scale. The technology is what solves for that, but to have the perspective of how that change actually cascades across the advisor's business is exciting.
Yeah, that's the key word there, cascade, because it touches everything.
Right.
People have got to be retrained. Processes need to be redefined. The way that your whole entire client experience now is different. A couple of things, because I'm relatively new to understanding what I've seen Advisor Engine over the years. Is Advisor Engine like a off-the-shelf kind of a solution, or is it a bespoke product that is augmented specifically for that practice?
Yeah, I mean, I want to say it's a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
So off-the-shelf, meaning we've got the client onboarding, the new account opening, the model management, and the performance reporting, all in one with the client portal. But what's bespoke about it is it's your risk questionnaire, it's your models, it's the way you want to trade and rebalance. So it takes, I would call it mass customization.
Wow.
Is what we're trying for. And then on top of that, we've got what was once known as the Juncture CRM, Advisor Engine CRM, that really is what gets most advisors day to day running their businesses through the CRM. So to have those two products combined is a really powerful combination.
I have to tell you, I'm a previous power user of Juncture.
Yeah.
We used it at Beacon Wealth Management, so we were on the first iteration of Juncture, and then we went to the Juncture Cloud.
Yep.
I have to tell you that software, that technology helped us remember who is responsible for what, because a lot of times that the client journey touches like marketing, touches operations, touches client service, touches business development, touches relationship management, touches everybody and everything. And that software made us like our operations, we shine through that.
And that's that mass customization we talked about. This is a CRM that was purpose built for advisors.
Greg Friedman.
Yep. So it comes out of the box, right?
Yeah.
As a advisor-based CRM, but it's bespoke when you start to implement your specific workflow, your specific segmentation into the workflows and the system that come out of the box with the Juncture.
Yeah.
So you can sort of get the best of both worlds. It's not like you're trying to buy Microsoft Dynamics and then have to get an overlay on top of that and then customize it on top of that, right? So it's a purpose-built CRM for our industry.
Interesting. So now, how many times, you being that you've been in the industry for how many years now?
25.
25, and incredible. And it was great that you and I were able to check in during the pandemic, because I know that you're a father of 4 kids.
That's
George.
right. Yeah.
And your wife is. I'll let you tell the story. I'm really blown away by this. So, what does your wife do?
Yeah, she's a nurse, a neonatal intensive care nurse. So gets to snuggle with babies all day and do a lot of great work.
Yeah. So God bless your wife. And a first responder. So it's great to have you here. How many market councils have you been to?
I'm embarrassed to say it's my first.
Oh, me too. Me too.
TD Ameritrade was sponsored for many, many years.
Sure.
And just the way the scheduling worked, we tried to divide and conquer. I was off doing some other conferences at this time of year, and a lot of my colleagues have been here. So nothing but great respect for this conference. But my actual first time being here.
Me too. So what are your overall impressions? Like, how would you describe it? I know one of the reasons to do this podcast is there are people who couldn't make it for whatever reason. And so I get the question, you're going to get the question, hey, how is Market Counsel? How would you describe it as a first-time attendee?
Yeah, the quality of content is as good as I've seen at any conference. And you're hearing directly from the owners and the practitioners. So you're getting unfiltered advice, unfiltered feedback on what's working and what's not. And I don't think you get that at many other conferences where you're potentially hearing from a sponsor or a vendor and you're getting the polished answer.
Yeah.
Here, you're hearing from a lot of the actual users and practitioners, and they're unfiltered and giving it to you the way you want to hear it, good, bad, and ugly.
Yeah, it's like we're all in this leadership retreat of some sort. I feel like we were somehow beamed to the Fountainbleau in Miami Beach, And yeah, there's not one single, I like that the emphasis has been more on relationship and community.
Yep.
No sales presentations at all. I think whoever would try to do that here would probably be escorted out. So it's a real, like a homegrown community audience. So
and it's sharing. Like, I don't think anyone is trying to hide.
Yeah.
Like, there's no secret sauce here.
Yeah.
Right. So, and once you can walk up to Rick Edelman in the hallway, or Cheryl Penny, or Matt Cooper. So you're getting the people that are shaping our industry, and you're also going to be able to actually have a conversation with them and get real answers. And you don't get that at a lot of conferences.
Well, it's so great to see you.
Yeah, you too.
So glad, and look forward to seeing you at more Market Counsel summits. I know you and I will be here. We're going to be going, right? This is going to be a first or second, hey George, or third or fourth. We're
first of many.
Exactly. So great to see you. God bless your family too.
Thanks so much. Great to see you too.
Here's Marwa Zakaria, CEO of AssetBook. AssetBook's cloud-based portfolio management system gives investment managers the tools they need to manage and grow.
Marwa, how awesome to see you here at Market Counsel. Yay!
I'm excited to be here. Excited to see you, Tina.
I am so excited. So I wanted to just introduce you to the world. We definitely want to have you in season 3 on In the Suite. So I was so excited that I saw your beautiful face. Couldn't wait to grab you here on location at the Market Counsel Summit. How many times have you been here already?
Market Counsel, this is my first rodeo, to be honest with you.
Mine too. And you know what? I love it. We just had Alan Darby from Alaris Acquisitions also too. This is my first Market Counsel. I'm loving it so far. How about you? What are your thoughts?
Loving it. I told Kate Healy from former TD World and Shannon Spotswood, we had dinner last night and we were talking about it. We were so excited to see you as well. I think that we're doing a female invasion type deal here. And I think Brian's excited about it. He likes having us here. So I think that's what's going to happen. We're the new invasion that's taking over.
Absolutely.
You know, he wants us here.
Right.
So
I would say, and I said this to Shannon and to another person, there's never been a better time to be a woman in the industry. I feel that here at this conference, everyone has been rolling out the red carpet for us.
Yes.
The program, the people, even the food. I had avocado toast this morning.
Right. Yeah. So yesterday was bagels and cream cheese, and Kate said, "Can I get a piece of fruit?" And today we have oatmeal, avocado toast with veggies, and so they're thinking of everything. It's super exciting. It's super accommodating. I think the venue's beautiful.
Yeah.
And like you said, the red carpet, everyone's nice. It's just nice to be together. It's the energy. I think the panels have been great. The information. We did not get up. We said that we were going to get up and walk around.
Yeah.
But the information is so great. The note taking, I just couldn't.
Oh yeah, I have not been outside.
Mm-hmm.
So here we are in beautiful Miami Beach. The conference is that good at Market Counsel that you don't go outside until the outside events.
It's problematic, right?
Exactly. Now, one of the best reasons leadership in the C-suite is something that we're so passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
And Marwa, you are CEO, Chief Executive Officer of AssetBook. And so I wondered if you can kind of talk a little bit about AssetBook. How long have you been CEO? I'm really fascinated to learn a little bit more about you.
So I have not been CEO for long. I have now been in the role for just at the 14-month mark.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's a pretty new position.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
By the way. That's always great to see.
Thank you. But the company's really turned around. And I have all of the credit to give to a very amazing and dynamic team behind. They are the reason and my motivation every day for jumping in. Yes, the system is great. I will tell you that, but it's not a commercial. My commercial really is the AssetBook team. They're amazing bunch of people. I can't say enough good things about them. So, and I'm not advertising them, so no one try to poach them. I'm just telling you that they are, I am a very team-oriented individual. My background's HR. I was in private banking. So for those that are wondering, what the heck is she doing here? So I do have the experience, but my foundational background, upbringing, love, passion is operations and human resources. And so that's what my degree is in. That is what I believe in. I don't believe that you can have a successful business without having good people, and people that back you are ones that are motivated and successful because you believe in them, and that truly is Asset Book.
And so tell us a little bit about, and I definitely believe what you're saying. I think the gospel of fintech, it goes back to the teams, and it goes back to the people, because if you can't have people that work together, collaborate, then you don't have like a great product. So for those people who are new to Asset Book, what does Asset Book do?
So Asset Book, we are a portfolio reporting solution. They've been around for 15 years.
That's a pretty long time in fintech.
It's a pretty long time. So we had flatline, for lack of better words, just because sometimes when you're around for a long time, that can be good and bad, right? You get in your own way sometimes. But we had to re-innovate and reevaluate what was happening with the systems. So we've now launched a new system. And so we're moving into new integrations and new features. We have new announcements coming. Thank you, T3, that will...
Oh, I can't wait for T3
so,
Denton, Texas.
Yes, and
Fantastic.
so we're excited for that event, and we will have some announcements that were kind of put on the shelf to move along with them. Just because it's a pretty hyped up event, and that also will work well for us. Because Asset Book's always been a big supporter of T3 and vice versa.
Yeah, and when we love T3, and so I know that here when In the Suite is traveling to T3, that we're going to be able to get you and talk about what those big announcements are. It's so nice that you kind of queued it up here.
Yes, that's actually the first time, so there you go.
Okay, well, we're going to take a great selfie here too while we're here, and just I'm so happy to see you. Congratulations on what poises to be now for Asset Book, an incredible 2022. I'm so proud of you, and I love to see just like great leadership come in, and very team-oriented person you are, Marwa.
The industry is very fortunate to have you, Tina. I can't say enough great things about you as well, and I was so excited to see you, and we're very grateful to have you in the industry and people like you, and I'm so excited to have you at T3, which is why I was very happy to announce what I did, and we'll be glad to take selfies and much, much more at T3.
Let's talk with Rob Sandrew, Chief Growth Officer at Integrated Financial Partners. Integrated Partners helps financial advisors to pursue their entrepreneurial vision. They offer comprehensive business building services designed with the truly independent advisor in mind.
So Rob, we first met about 4 years ago. I think it was 3 or 4 years ago, and it was the first Wealthtech event in Scottsdale, Arizona, right?
That's correct.
Your firm, of course, Integrated Partners, Jason Lahita, was it working and just joined your firm?
Chief Communications Officer.
Exactly. Right? And now look at you. I was just on a panel and Integrated, you guys are everywhere.
It's been a great handful of years. So that was I think probably a watershed moment for our organization when we actually bumped into you. We really were focused on opening up in terms of open architecture, multi-custodial, making sure that we had the right partners, which goes hand in hand with technology. So that was part of the reason I was there. We brought Jason in to help with the communication. Since Jason started his new firm, Street Cred, we are now a client of them. And it's just been a really great ride. I think it's where we are in the industry. It's very exciting. I think we're only at the tip of kind of in the early innings, if you will.
Yeah, and so the way that advisors work with Integrated, do they become affiliated with Integrated, or is it an M&A type model?
It's a great question. Currently, it's an affiliation model. So the idea behind the whole model itself is one in which we're trying to act as an extension to their business model. So I mentioned open architecture before, right? We're working with typically higher end advisors in the sense of when I say higher end, meaning typically over 100, 200 million billion of AUM, AUA, and they're very entrepreneurial driven, which in many cases means that they have their own brand. They've built some pretty strong processes internal. We don't want to disrupt that. We believe independence is just that. We want to give them a great deal of autonomy. We want them to really look at us, again, as an extension of their business, so to take advantage of that scale. But what we're doing essentially is plugging these advisors in as investment advisor representatives, and they maintain their autonomy and independence.
Yeah, that's big. I mean, especially on the marketing side too. Are they able to maintain their own personal brand as well too?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we see that like really big, of course, on the on the marketing side. The idea that now every firm wants to brand themselves, wants to be out in front, like Josh Brown and Barry Ritholtz. I think that they modeled what championing an advisor brand and advisor persona could look like.
Right. I mean, again, we think independence is like just that. It is advisors go independent because they want to have a great degree of flexibility, control, agility to run their own business. And again, the advisors that tend to really gravitate towards our model or towards our firm, they tend to be incredibly entrepreneurial driven. So we're not going to try to take the keys away, if you will. Just one tweak in terms of our model, we're now entering kind of an extension, if you will, of the affiliation model and do some minority type ownership stakes in some of these larger advisory teams so that they can come in. We'll essentially give them some capital to reinvest back into the business to continue to grow, and then we're essentially part of the ownership structure.
And so what brings you to MarketCounsel this year? Is this your first MarketCounsel?
This is my second MarketCounsel, and I just think the knowledge base, the leadership that's here, it's just a great place to really make sure that you're dialed in terms of what's going on in the industry, keeping your finger on the pulse. I mean, this is where all the leaders in our space go, and it's just a really great opportunity to get exposure to what others are doing and just hear about. There's a panel right now talking about crypto. It's something that is obviously top of mind for us all. So just trying to stay on top of things.
Yeah, I would agree. A lot of great themes: M&A, crypto, advisor branding, independence.
Right. And I also think being in South Beach isn't that bad either, right?
Well, what a pleasure. I enjoy seeing you again.
Likewise.
Congratulations again on all your success. And I would say that one of the great things for us here being at MarketCounsel is how approachable the C-suite is here. In the suite, it's wonderful to be able to bring all of these business leaders, have great conversations. What are the great takeaways from this conference?
It's always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's hear from Ryan Shanks, co-founder and CEO of FA Match. FA Match is a two-way recruitment platform that is optimized for advisors to connect with RIAs, broker-dealers, OSJs, and other financial services firms.
Brian Shanks, oh my God, how awesome to run into you here at MarketCounsel Summit. I'm so excited to see you. Wow, you had a great quarantine, thanks to you.
Yeah, that was good times. It seems like that was 10 years ago.
This isn't your first conference since the quarantine. I think I saw you at Riskalyze, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Riskalyze at Excel. That was at Carson's conference.
Excel. Yep. I couldn't make it to Riskalyze in person, but this is my first MarketCounsel Summit.
That blows my mind.
Crazy,
right? I'm blown away that you've not been to this before.
Yeah, so when I saw you, I had to grab you here and pull you in the suite. 2021 was a great year for you. You were a finalist. I saw you at the Wealthies. Your FA Match was a finalist for the Wealth Management Awards. And I wanted to get your perspective. You've been in the industry now for probably almost 2 decades, maybe a little, shy of that. You certainly have a pulse on the industry. You know the people here. You know the workings inside and out. So what are your kind of big takeaways for MarketCounsel and what's happening right now in the industry? How do we bring those themes together?
Yeah, look, coming out of sort of the COVID, and I feel like we're still in this sort of a little bit of a COVID hangover. Yeah. It just won't go away, right? It's still just lingering. But everybody being together, you realize that the human element of this business. There's so much technology, and we've got a technology business, but the human element we've missed. And so I think that what we're seeing is, these firms, the growth from a recruiting perspective is off the charts. From an acquisition perspective is off the charts. I think we're going to continue to see that.
Yeah. Tell us what FA Match does too.
So high level, FA Match is really, it's a digital platform to connect financial advisors and wealth management companies. Now that connection can come from an advisor that wants to move with their clients to just get upward trajectory, cultural, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But another element is succession. It's continuity. It's an older advisor that's like, hey, I want to work with you to help me find that successor. And so that's really the world that we live in and we play in. Talent acquisition it's one of the top 2 priorities for every single firm that we talk to. And there's firms that are crushing it, very successful, and there's firms that frankly they're trying to figure out getting on the field. So I'm having a lot of conversations with folks who have never put in place a recruiting strategy.
Right.
They've just sort of grown organically. Referral from another advisor that's with them, and they're saying we want to have more intention around this. But what do we go to market with? Here's who we are. How does that stack up against everyone else that's doing the same thing? So differentiating, it's starting to get very gray.
Yeah.
So firms they're having to go above and beyond to really differentiate, like what makes you so special. It's compliance, technology, all those other elements. Those are commodities. Everybody's doing that.
Right. So like culture is playing, and that's another theme right now. How are companies really getting it right in terms of culture? What are some of the standout characteristics of high-performing teams, high-performing cultures in the wealth management space?
So, I had a lunch meeting earlier with the folks at Kill Point. And you talk about an organization where they just, their heart comes out in everything that they do. So there is a level of authenticity that there's firms like that are getting it right. And then there's a lot of others that are sort of like they're trying to play the part, but they're not following through. And I always talk about it's like when you're doing recruiting, it's like dating. The courtship phase is really exciting for all parties. But that doesn't really matter if the marriage isn't going to be the same.
Yeah.
And you don't really know until you move to that firm to figure out what that's going to be like. So as we evaluate firms around all the different connectivity points, culturally, that's the human part of this business that you can't digitize. That's where you go on that date, an advisor in a firm, and you ask those questions and you see how they respond to those questions, right? And then from there, you're kind of gauging authenticity. You're trying to determine.
And I know you're going to talk a lot about these themes, right? Because it's not, we can sit here for hours and hours, you and I, days and weeks, and still not have it figured out. You're introducing a new podcast, right? You're gonna be talking about these themes on an ongoing basis.
That's right. Yeah, okay. The No BS podcast.
Oh, I love it.
So it's I drop F-bombs, like it's very real. We're trying to engage in conversations and ask the questions that other people are thinking but not asking. And so that's our driver. And our drivers are really, it's all about transparency and honesty. And we're calling out bad practices in the business. So the most recent episode was the bullshit recruiters don't tell you. And so it was all about the games that are played. And that advisors and firms don't really know.
Yeah.
So,
we'll make sure that we have a link in the podcast. But the other thing I wanted to do is that during the quarantine, we lost this peer-to-peer learning environment that we have. Like, great, we're here at a conference right now. But for a while, we were stuck in a bad dream. No conferences, no contact. And you brought a concept that was so awesome. You really brightened my world during a very dark time. And you called it Quarantina. First of all, your marketing and your branding for that was freaking brilliant.
Thank you.
Okay. Not only that, your choice of band, Brothers of Others, who I literally actually did make a couple of PayPals. I was like, you know what? You guys deserve it. You're showing up. I felt like I had my own personal band there. So I wanted to thank you for that. I saw them performing the first night here at MarketCounsel. Phenomenal. Even Brian Hamburger here, who would no BS it, right?
That's right.
He told you straight. These guys were top notch.
Top notch. Well, and what you realized when we were doing our quarantinas weekly is that you got to get to know them in a different element, right? You got to see them sort of winging it. Like, when we do the requests, they're like, they're pulling on their iPhone. Like, we don't know the lyrics, but we think we can do this. And listen, that was, you're right. I mean, has there ever been a time where all of us, not just in the United States, but around the world, are experiencing the exact same thing at the exact same time? And for us, you take it for granted because you travel around and you see people that if all of that's taken away, you start to kind of go really stir crazy, like, oh my God, I miss that, right? Now, I think that there's a certain population that probably loved not getting out and about, right? Like, I have to go do it with the job. But to bring all of us together like that, it was very organic how it came about.
But you hired a band, so I'm like, who does this? Who does a Zoom invite to everyone in the industry, right? You had to go through and be permissioned in, but still anybody could attend. And then you hire a band And then your technology was incredible. The sound, I don't know how you like engineered the quality of sound. It wasn't just coming through the regular Zoom. It sounded legit. I literally blasted my computer on some of those songs.
It was, we did it every Thursday.
Yeah,
and there were some of I would have my kids would be in there, my wife would be sitting down in there with us, and 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 it got to where they're like, oh shoot, because I would go around the house and say, everybody off the devices, like we need to have. But that was a way for us to see each other, to toast each other, to have some hope that it's probably not forever, and that we're all still here together, right? And then of course, we get back to this, and we get to hug necks, and it's.
It was really great. Well, Brian Shanks, FA Match, thank you so much for spending time in the suite. We're going to make sure that we have a link. I'm going to listen to your podcast after I get done, putting all the stuff, writing the notes from this one, but I'm really looking forward to it. Thanks for just being a bright light in our industry and for making time to visit.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.
Good to see you.
You too.
You're listening to In the Suite, a podcast that shares amazing stories of women in business in the financial services and the wealth management industry. Our producers are Tina Powell and Kevin Hirshorn. Our editor-at-large is Kevin Hirshorn. Our content writers are Dimple Rashandani and Tina Powell. Our research and technical assistant is Olivia Gonzalez. In the Suite podcast is sponsored by C-Suite Social Media, a high-performance marketing agency for RIAs and Fintech companies in the wealth management industry. You can visit csuitesocialmedia.com to learn more. And thank you so much for listening and subscribing. We've got listeners in 968 cities and 53 countries as of today. We are so grateful, especially for your 5-star reviews, because this podcast was inspired by you and created for women who want to lead. So please let us know how you enjoyed this episode and share your thoughts on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, #InTheSuite. Be sure to check out MarketCounsel Summit at www.marketcounselsummit.com. And always, if you would like to share the name of a rock star woman or man in financial services we should interview in 2022, please send it to me at tina@inthesuitepodcast.com and we'll consider it. Again, thank you so much for listening and subscribing to In the Suite.